Hi, everybody. I think let's get started. Thank you. I just want to start by acknowledging that I am located on the unceded territories, the unceded and unsurrendered territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh here in the downtown east side in Vancouver. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time today. It's so amazing to see so many people join us today. It's exciting. Well, here's the headline, right? Construction has begun. I feel like lots of you folks are here for that reason. But to start, I just wanted to do a little check-in question in the chat function. We're taking the building down at 320, and I would love for folks to write in the chat as I get started here, a memory that you have had. If you have a memory from 320, just please share it in the chat, and towards the end I'll maybe pull some up and read them out. So what are we going to do today? We're meeting for 45 minutes, the typical time. We'll be out by 5:15, and I'm going to provide some updates about the redevelopment, the building progress, the campaign, share a couple of stories, update you on Carmen, and then we're going to hear from Didi, our Legal Advocacy Manager, on their work here at First United. So, I'm just going to put everybody on mics on silent there. Thanks so much. So,
Okay.
Sometimes.
Just give me one moment.
Thank you.
Bob, your dinner is it's not quite electrically on by the time you need it. Okay, it's on a plate.
Hi everyone, sorry, I'm just putting everybody on mute. So if you can also manually do it yourself, if you just click the mute button. And we've got somebody behind the scenes here who'll be doing that as well, asking folks to use it. Okay, thanks. So,
2021.
I promised people the last time I did a speaking engagement that I wouldn't do this opener about my name. So my name is Amanda Burrows, and I am not related to the Reverend Bob Burrows. But my father's name is Bob Burrows, so it makes it very confusing. And I thought that when I made this joke at the golf tournament, I said, I'm never gonna have to do it again. But I was at the Pacific Mountain Region conference a couple of weekends ago, and every other person was inquiring if I was the Reverend Bob relative somehow. So I was like, okay, maybe one last time with about 80 of you here, maybe even 90 of you today. That would be important. I'm just, we're still working on getting all the mute on. So if you have your mic on right now, can you please turn it off by hitting your mute? That would be awesome. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm honored to be hosting and sharing some updates, as I mentioned. And more than midway through my time as acting ED with Carmen on her sabbatical, returning in mid-July. More on that later. So far, it's been an incredible experience to help hold the reins, not hold them, helping. It's such a formative period in our history, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. And as you know, what's been happening at First is really centered a lot around redevelopment right now. Construction, permits, inspections, actually permits on top of permits, moving, and of course fundraising. But it really does bear mentioning that all this is happening on top of the work every day. Like there is still work every day that's happening that does not have anything to do with the redevelopment. So it's always important to leave space and reflect on that. And I am in awe. Here we go. Here's the slide. I am in awe of the perseverance of our teammates here, to their commitments, and above all else, a commitment to the mission. They have had to problem solve around a constant changing landscape. And as someone has mentioned, a building that was held together by thread and a prayer and a global pandemic. And they keep serving the community and literally saving lives. So here's a picture, one of our latest pictures. Not everyone in it, but one of the first times so many of us gathered together.
5, 4, 6.
So for almost 140 years, we've been guided by our vision of a neighborhood where every person's work is celebrated and all people thrive. And to make this vision a reality, we must replace our aging facilities, which fall far short of our current and future needs. And why it matters is people deserve the dignity and care that this purpose-built space will provide. And it's really about revitalizing the corner of Gore and Hastings, which has been a community-informed project that really centers reconciliation and healing.
I'm trying to see it. Is it any catch?
I hope so, because the guys here told me that it would go with that.
And it's happening. The fences are up. I don't know if you've driven past it yet. They were put up last week and they're wrapped in info about where our temporary programs will be. And the demolition work has begun. So it goes without saying that we're incredibly excited, for this. But we also want to say that we're lovingly taking it down brick by brick, because we really do want to honor the memories.
I guess they didn't read it.
That has been happening here since the 1950s.
Yeah. Is there a 22? I'm just going to go.
Just to pause for a second. I believe, Paul, your mic's on. So demolition date start, July 13th. Construction will be fall of 2022, and then the new building will be in the winter of 2024. That has been the timelines that have been given to us. I just want to share, before we took the building down and all the fast pace, we really wanted to pause.
That's the newest one.
Yeah.
We wanted to give thanks, as I said, to the memories of ministry that has occurred in the 1950s. And in all our busy work and how fast it's been, we took the time. And one of the first things we did was a totem pole removal ceremony so that we could appropriately take it down. Many of you have probably seen this totem pole in our gym. It was actually carved by a team of 14 Indigenous carvers in 2009. It was a 12-foot log shipped from Haida Gwaii, put into the garage at our 320 East Hastings building, and it has a Thunderbird, killer whale, mighty bear, grandmother moon emerged. Many of the carvers were from the downtown East Side community, and like I said, 14 of them worked in shifts and under the supervision of the master carver Bernie Williams of the Haida Gwaii Nation. And she is the first woman to apprentice under the well-known Haida artist Bill Reed. The pole was given as a gift in memory of the murdered and missing Indigenous women, and it was also recognition of homelessness in the downtown East Side. Here's some more photos. So on May 20th, Bernie helped guide us by taking it down before the building, of course, before we're going to take down the building. And there was, at the ceremony, she told us the story of this pole. And she talked about homelessness. And she really had that correction that it's not about homelessness, it's about houselessness, that we all have a home, and the home is our land, and that we're rooted in that. And that is definitely something that has really stuck with me in her words and her story. And so we wanted there was like one of our staff had made this sort of like snazzy pulley system to carry it out, but actually what ended up happening, that didn't work. The traditional way worked, where you can see in the slide, there were small 2x4s that folks did, and you can see the staff, all the staff members carrying it, and then the other staff members that were around in a circle. And we went 3 blocks down the street where we ended up at our temporary location, our offices at 368. It was a very powerful start to the morning, and throughout the day we had another ceremony. And I'm just gonna switch to what then happened in the afternoon. We had many members of our communities of faith. Oh, hi everyone. I'm just gonna share my screen again. Anyway, I'll get back to the screen. I feel like behind the scenes someone's doing like a mic test. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to get together and officially do a decommissioning of the space. So, and it was a powerful expression of ministry that had happened there. There were stories told from these folks. You can see Carrie there and Blair there. Someone told me that it was like the Hall of Famers were in the room. But somebody who is new to the United Church, I have an evangelical background, but new to the United Church, I was struck by the stories that folks were telling in the room about being on the front lines of different social justice work decades and decades ago. And I felt actually pretty overcome by the stories and how we've shown up at First United and our mission constantly has been to serve the most vulnerable who are in disproportionate representation, but that it's not about a savior complex. It's not about trying to come in and save anyone. It's about walking in alongside people. And I found that it was an incredibly powerful day. I'm gonna share my screen again and show you the, there's another group shot of some folks. I don't know if you can recognize some people in the photo, but it was a very powerful day. And so here we are during construction. So we have a map. So we are in the Ministry Society in 6 different locations. Our emergency shelter is officially moved as of a couple weeks ago to 467. We have our community ministry that's been located there this past year at 360. Our community help desk just opened just over a month ago at 501. We have our legal advocacy that has been at 542 East Hastings for a long time. And then our administration is at 368. And of course, we have 3 our housing society operates 3 buildings, 2 in the neighborhood and 1 further south. And then we have a nice little emoji of our food truck that is going to, so grateful, start rolling into the neighborhood next week, which we're thrilled about. And so, I mean, I want to extend gratitude. Of course, when we talk about the redevelopment, often we pause, you know, we talk about the capital campaign first forward. And as of today, we're almost at 24 million of our 30 million goal, which is 80% of our target. So many folks in this room have participated in that, whether as a donor or an advocate for the project, or actually our volunteer cabinet. A lot of you folks are on this call as well. And of course, our board. So thank you so much. And I think we positioned today too, big news, but a lot of you are already in the know. So you know that history has repeated itself for the second time. The election of the moderator has gone uncontested and for the second time. And we're so proud that First United's Executive Director, the Reverend Dr. Carmen Lansdowne, is the only nominee for the 44th moderator. Although she is the only nominee, the United Church requires an election, which will happen on July 23rd, and the individual will be elected at the time will be installed on August 7th. So we miss her, and we're just thrilled, the board, staff, and community, to see that Carmen's leadership, theological rigor, and commitment to the church, justice, and progress has been recognized. So as I mentioned, Carmen has been on sabbatical. I've been the acting executive director. I'll continue to lead the organization through the board's executive search process for an interim executive director. When Carmen's nomination was first considered earlier this year, the board developed a robust succession plan to prepare the organization for the continuity of services and success should she be installed as the moderator for this 3-year term. An executive search process will begin in the coming weeks, and Carmen intends to return to First United at the end of her 3-year term. As you know, it's quickly taking shape here. I mean, since 2008, maybe even further, but 2008, we've really been envisioning a new purpose-built facility to house our important community-centered work here. And in 2018, the board became an even bigger driving force in making this a reality. And one of those board members, and just taking a moment here to mention, was Stan Lanyon. And just want to recognize the impact he had. I was at his celebration of life last week, and I only was able, had the privilege of talking to him for about 10 minutes about a year ago. But when I went to the service, I was struck with how many people he impacted in the labor movement, in politics, and certainly at First United. And so we feel that impact every day as this project's moving forward. We know that Carmen was also on that foundation. Her leadership has been instrumental in advancing this project after those attempts. And me and the volunteer leadership, the staff, continue to move the redevelopment forward. And so even though there might be a shift in the next 3 years in leadership, what will remain the same is the commitment the board and staff do have to serving the downtown east side. I just, want to, before I pass it over, invite questions before inviting Didi, just talking about our community. I always say this community is a community of deep struggle, but deep strength. It is experiencing complexity of issues from the criminalization of poverty, mental health, and personal and historical trauma, where they say that grief is a constant companion, and every day somebody in the neighborhood loses 1 or 2 neighbors a day to the drug overdose crisis. And the downtown east side deserves our attention, and thank you for being here today and giving it that attention. With that, I am going to, I'm going to invite Didi to speak on the legal advocacy, and then the remainder of our time together, we can answer questions. Thank you.
Hi there, everyone. There I am. So my name is Didi Dufresne. I'm the Advocacy Manager at First United. And as with Amanda's opening, I want to recognize that I'm an uninvited guest on the unceded and occupied territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. My pronouns are they, them, she, her, and he, him. I've been working for First United since approximately the summer of 2010. I've been the legal advocacy manager, I think, for the past 6 or 7 years. I recently began my articling program here at First United, and hopefully will be called in the spring. From what I've been told from previous advocates, like, our call to provide advocacy started like organically out of needs in the community and the type of services they required. We've been providing advocacy services for at least 4 decades. When I started working here, we had just received a grant, a generous grant from the Law Foundation of British Columbia that serves to give grants to anti-poverty organizations. With that, there were a series of changes around kind of the scope and scope of services and best practices, and I've been happy to provide individual case advocacy to people, as well as providing public legal education. We mainly assist in the areas of income security, housing, and debt-related issues. We don't help with things such as finding new housing or family law matters or any kind of personal injury related stuff, but we're squarely in the scope of anti-poverty legal advocacy. In terms of our program here, we're truly at an exciting time. I feel very buoyed by the development of our new building, which I think has been in the works at least for as long as I've been working here. We've been in redevelopment, so I'm so thrilled to see it actually happening. I know many of my colleagues are as well. But in terms of like my program in particular, I think one of the most exciting things is we've been able to hire a staff lawyer position with the express purpose of considering systemic advocacy, law reform, and the development of a social justice agenda for the First United Church. We've hired Sarah Marston, who's a powerhouse in her own right, and I think one of the most brilliant people I've worked with. She stepped into this role about 6 months ago, and we are so lucky to have her. It's That's a real gift. I'm going to sketch out like kind of why it's important and why this is a change. So the work that I've been doing is individual case advocacy. The other advocates as well, like this is kind of what we do day in, day out. And so, you know, we're assisting people to get on income assistance, to appeal their welfare denials, their disability denials, appeal their evictions, try to keep people in their housing. You know, this, I don't mean to make that sound like it's not important work, because it is 100% fundamentally crucial to people in the community and people in the neighborhood. Like the ability to keep somebody in their housing even for 2 more months, like quite frankly, can be a matter of life and death. And I feel super honored to do this work. At the same time, it has its limits. So, you know, sometimes you absolutely do win a case, you stave off someone's eviction, and then that's it. You don't hear from them again, and probably nothing else has changed. And then other times you have people come in with an eviction, you're successful in that application, they're in their housing for 3 more months, the landlord issues a new eviction for new grounds, and then you're having that same fight, which maybe that time the landlord has figured out how to get them out, and then you're not successful and the person then is unhoused. Again, buying time, like it's a harm reduction matter. A colleague of mine once framed it as, our role is like a Band-Aid on gangrene, and I don't think she's incorrect. It still is helpful and it still is crucial. But with moving towards a systemic advocacy approach, like having that move in lockstep with the kind of things that we see every day, I think will move us towards a more just future. I'm going to sketch out kind of how this kind of thing will work, right? So, give you an example. Several years ago, my colleagues and I had heard from the grapevine that there was an entire building being evicted for non-payment of rent. Now, non-payment of rent is really a super strict matter. So if the tenant hasn't paid rent, they have 5 days after getting their eviction notice to pay what they owe in full, or to dispute it if they have in fact paid the rent. Having like an entire building with, you know, 40, 50 people with eviction notices for non-payment rent is weird, to say the least. I think what had happened is management had shifted in the building, and instead of going to welfare, dealing with the problem holistically to actually just get payment flowing, they were attempting to use that as a moment to disrupt people's tenancies so that they could then have people sign the kind of transitional housing agreements and get out of the Residential Tenancy Act so that they'd have more power over the tenants. We were able to mobilize as a group and fight off those evictions for most folks who, you know, kind of got with us. But I think there's like maybe 30 or so tenants that we were able to work with there. All the people we didn't work with, though, like who knows what happens to them, to be quite frank. I think a lot of them just left. Like people get eviction notices and they think it's game over, and so they leave. There's not a lot of wiggle room with a non-payment eviction notice, unfortunately. And so if somebody hasn't paid, then they're likely going to be out. In other jurisdictions, such as like Ontario, an arbitrator has the ability to consider like kind of a payment plan that'll put the tenant and the landlord in a good position with respect to each other. And they also have to consider the detrimental effects of being made houseless on the tenant. We have no such protections in BC, and it can be quite shocking. You know, people can be evicted over, you know, $20, $50 of unpaid rent. And the arbitrator can do little more than try to guilt the landlord into accepting the late rent. And if the landlord's unwilling, they don't really have a lot of authority, legally speaking, to keep that person in their housing. Even if they've already paid it, like even if they paid it kind of like 20 days late, the if the landlord is like, no, you know what, that's too much, they got to be out. It's possible that that person would lose their housing. You know, we can only do as much good as the law allows. And we know that the law like acts and thrives at the behest of those with power and resources. And those are not the people that we work with. And for good reason. They're often people who like need the assistance. Dealing with this kind of daily grind of inequalities and just systemic marginalization for people in the community. I think Amanda was really eloquent there about what people in the community experience. And it's hard. And it is made so much easier by the fact of having a program move not just towards this individual representation where we're not shifting the needle at all, but our program has now opened up, and the organization has so thankfully like taken on this call to move towards social justice, and really is, you know, putting the money where the mouth is. And I'm super grateful and also super energized to do this work, and hoping to join all of you in it. So those are my remarks. I think maybe Amanda wanted to maybe move towards questions.
Yeah, let's do some questions for Didi, and then at the end towards myself. I just love it takes a community to do the work, and I love the community in the chat room right now doing the work to get those mics muted. Anyway, any questions for Didi? You can just unmic yourself and ask, or raise a hand. Judith Clark, I see you. Or also you can put questions in the chat too. Go ahead, Judith.
Unmute. Get my video back. Sorry, just a question about, you said Sarah Marston, and I'm kind of out of the loop here, so I don't know her name. Can you tell me a little bit more about her background and how she, I mean, this is really a dream legal job to do systemic advocacy. Is amazing. So she's a lucky girl, whoever she is, or whatever.
Yeah, it for sure is. No, and I think she is always like, this is my job. It's so amazing. So Sarah Marston previously ran the UBC Law Students like legal advice program. Like she was their supervisor for a period of time, and then more recently has been teaching at the Faculty of Law at Thompson Rivers University. So, she's real brilliant.
Yeah. Wow, that's a very exciting position to add to your portfolio. I think that's amazing. Thank you. I'm
so thankful that we've been able to do it. I think it is like a next step where we need to go. The work that we do, like my job and like the work of the other advocates, like it's just too all consuming. So, you know, I think we've always tried to do some sorts of systemic advocacy kind of off the side of our desk in and amongst the significant number of files that we deal with. So I'm happy that somebody can be dedicated to it. We need it, quite frankly.
Thank you for that. And Didi, how many files do you folks usually handle per year?
It varies. Like, interestingly, over COVID, there's been a reduction. I think across the sector, people I think saw less work, which I think speaks to two things. Like, one, I do think the provincial government reacted in terms of, like, particularly in terms of like income security related stuff. I think that piece federally and provincially stepped in pretty quickly. We saw very few like welfare disability files throughout this pandemic. It's starting to come back now. The eviction on moratoriums like assisted also, but that was very short-lived, to be honest, and you know, problematically so. In terms of real numbers, I think for like the program, I want to say we kind of see like 600 files like per advocate, I'd say. That varies depending on like type of file. So like by the file, I mean, it could be somebody coming in and asking some real basic questions about like their security deposit and how long does the landlord have to return it. It's 15 days. Or it could be taking on somebody's eviction case or like a denial of employment insurance. Like some of these things take a real long time. So, you know, but I would say on average it'd be about, you know, pre-pandemic 50 files per advocate. We have a team of 4, including myself, 4 advocates. During the pandemic that dropped slightly. I think we were doing more kind of like 30 to 40-ish, 30-ish per advocate.
Thank you. Do we have any final questions for Didi? And we can open it up to questions about all the things as well. We still have 10 minutes together, so.
It's Ariel.
Hi.
And I just wanted to say that Didi, I think you are amazing. You know, over the years, you've hung in there through some really hard times. And I just appreciate all that you've done and who you are.
Oh, thank you so much, Ariel. Truly.
So true. I need to read some of these comments about memories. I'll try not to call on anyone though, but some of them. Blair, your memory about Thanksgiving communion for the community, all matter of food at the table in the early 1990s. Did you help make it? Oh, where's Blair?
No, I didn't. I just partook.
Oh, question from Judith.
Okay. Yeah, I just was wondering about your fundraising efforts overall. I know that some of them are institutional, a lot of them are individual. Can you give me any indication of how many congregations have chipped in with institutional gifts?
Yes, we are at about, I'm going to pull it up. Just one moment. We've received we have about 4 big institutional gifts and about 10 congregations, communities of faith who are participating in this campaign that we're in right now. A lot of you folks have been participating in that. And so some churches have had donors that have done matching challenges. And it's all on our website at firstunited.ca in the first forward that shows. But the amount of money of the 24 million or just below 24 million that has been raised is astonishing. There's over 8 million of institutional gifts because also our region gave a large donation. They donated over 10 years ago, 2 million that is now turned into 3.5 million. And then they just gave us another $1 million this past year. And so we were at the region council as well, thanking them. And we've had just extraordinary generosity. And we want to not all be about fundraising dollars either. We know that to spread awareness, not only about the campaign, but also the work we're trying to do and stuff that Didi was mentioning about some of the social justice work that takes people power. It takes some money is one of a resource, but your voice is another. So if your community of faith wants to participate in any way with us, we want to know you and chat with how that can look. But the extraordinary generosity from individuals and communities of faith has blown me away. I never expected that when I started working here. And I guess now I should have, now that I've known so many of you, I should have expected that. It's been beautiful.
Thanks.
I would just add that I noticed one of the ads that you suggested we would start to see on the cable networks. I don't know whether it was CNN or MSNBC, but I just caught the end of it. And it was, you know, I thought, oh, I knew about that. I knew that was going to happen. So maybe that'll contribute to the fund.
Thanks, Doreen. We have a perspective here that we also wanted to put an investment into awareness. So just the sheer nature of how folks are clicking in, learning about our work, which means they're learning about the community in the downtown east side, is a huge win and also a huge goal of ours. It's not just about the finances. So we've got lots of great traction with our digital campaigns. And then, you know, we were on a commercial. Has anyone else seen it?
I haven't seen that one, but I've seen the ones in the SkyTrain stations.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I was at a dinner, the VST dinner. David Eby was the keynote. And on my way, I couldn't resist hanging my head out the window and saying, you know, thank you for talking. I'm with First United. And he goes, I can't go anywhere without seeing one of your ads. And I said,
Yeah.
good. Now what? Anyway. We still have a few more minutes if anyone has questions or comments.
Let's see.
Please.
Okay. I may be talking. Can you see me? Dorothy Jeffrey. I'm from a church in Burnaby. I'm currently, I picked to talk about your campaign as the first thing I reported from the general meeting of the region. I found our particular congregation used to do things, make sandwiches, collect stuff and bring it down, and they don't know how to get reconnected. So I put the pitch on for first forward, and I'm going to hold that in our bulletins for the next few months, weeks anyway. And so I hope that that'll help people get reconnected. People want to be on the ground. I was connected a while ago with somebody from your, who looks after the advertising?
Trista and myself. The campaign manager is sitting beside me. Yeah.
Who's the campaign manager?
Her name is Trista Bolton. You're on Zoom somewhere.
Okay, well, I don't know who it is, but I was connected with somebody a few months ago, and I don't know if I didn't hear that name, so it may be somebody different. But that's the really important thing, is having a name to connect with. So I put your name out there. I hope it helps.
Oh, anything helps. And speaking of reconnecting, and I had mentioned about the food truck rebuilding, you know, our volunteer, the help that we've had. And some people had put in the chat, actually, the meals that you participated in serving and the sandwiches. Is what's going on with the food truck is when it starts next week, we're starting to rebuild that engagement with having some volunteers come out at least once a week, and then we'll move from there, because it'll be busy, especially in the summer with lineups, and it's an amazing opportunity to promote, for lack of a better word, our different locations in the neighborhood, because the neighborhood is adjusting to where our new addresses are in the last couple of weeks. And so we're parking the food truck about at 360 Jackson, right in front of our spiritual care, and right beside our 501 community help desk. And we will definitely need volunteers to help hand out different harm reduction items, you know, other items that they want, hygiene, also the food, of course, from the truck. So we're really excited by that one. So please let your churches know to insert food truck, not sandwiches, but hopefully similar engagement. I think we had a question in the chat from Joan. Who pays for these ads? Our donations do, and the money that we've raised, and we have a major donor. And so our ads, we consider part of our social justice work and awareness. And also the ads that we do, if you'll start noticing, they are shown with, as we want to always show, compassion and dignity. People are shown how they feel, and not necessarily in duress. I won't use that term, but often some advertising can have shock value, and that is not our perspective. And so we believe that our investment into advertising, showing people in their power with compassion and dignity, also will help destigmatize what has often happened in this neighborhood. So we see it as an investment into that change. But we have a donor, yes.
Yes, my name is Sharon. I'm from Knox United.
Hi.
Hi. I was very proud and to see the advertisement on was it the Globe and Mail or Nash? Was it
Probably both.
Yeah, it was a whole. How I found out was my daughter is moving, so I'm helping her packing her stuff, and I needed all kinds of newspaper. I mean, who reads newspapers these days? So I got a whole bunch of them from recycle bin, and I was just ripping every page to wrap it, and right in front of me was a whole page of this First United Church ad, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" It was just so nice to see it, and I saved it. And on Burrard Street, I think on about 4th and Burrard or something, there's a huge billboard. I saw that too. So yeah, advertisement, it was nice to see that whole advertisement of what's going on.
Amazing. We also, and I shouldn't make excuses as I made a grand statement of making an investment, but we have had massive in-kind donations from the providers as well. We've even had the salespeople chip in their own money at Christmas. We had our sales reps donating their own funds too. And they've also extended, the ones in the buses that you see are from November. We only paid for a month. There are things that they've just kept up for us. So we've seen incredible generosity in that space too.
Yes, very nice. Thank you for the good job you're doing. Thank you.
So we're at 5:15. Anything? I'm collecting the chat for sure because I love the little stories in there. Does anyone have a final question? Oh,
Ariel again. And I just wondered, are you still looking for donations of toiletries, socks? And if so, where are they delivered?
So on our website, we have the list of the in-kind items we're still looking for. They would be going to 501 Community Help Desk. We still have Kristen who manages that. A lot of you might know her. She's been here for over like 11 years now. And the storage is, we have less opportunities to store items now, but we still are accepting in-kind donations for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Final thoughts?
Yes, it's Brian here.
Hi, Brian.
My final thought is that when Carmen told the board that she'd be taking her sabbatical, which we encouraged her to do, we had an incredible sense of nervousness because we couldn't imagine leadership without Carmen there. And what an incredible blessing it's been that all that nervousness disappeared as soon as Amanda took the role of acting ED. And so on behalf of the board, we're just so grateful to you, Amanda, and particularly to the way you talked about having an evangelical background, but you've become so thoroughly a part of the United Church community that it's a blessing, and we're just so proud of the work that you and all the rest of the staff are doing.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Well, on that note, good night, everybody. No, that was so beautiful. I thoroughly enjoyed working with you as well. And I know Heather and some other board members are on this call. I just can't believe how many of you are here today. I should believe it. You're amazing. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Didi, as well. Have wonderful evenings. See you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.